Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the Animal Welfare Group Nigeria. My name is Dr. Oluwaseun Sirayasiri, one of the coordinators of the group. I'm so excited to have you all participate in the 17th virtual inaugural lecture of the Animal Welfare Group Nigeria. Before we proceed with our guest speaker, I would like to let you know about the missions of the group. We have three main missions. Number one is to increase awareness of animal behavior and welfare. Number two is to foster collaboration among stakeholders in the field of animal behavior and welfare. And number three is to educate stakeholders on the importance of animal behavior and welfare. This group was established in 2019 after the gathering of students and lecturers at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Nigeria. And since then, we've been running a series of webinars and inaugural lectures like this. We have previous webinar sessions uploaded on our YouTube channel, so feel free to check Animal Welfare Group Nigeria on YouTube so you can have a rewatch of all the programs that we've been having so far. I'm so excited that we have a special guest in our midst to deliver the 17th virtual inaugural lecture. She is Professor Maria Hotzel of the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil. Before I hand over the mic to her to continue with her presentation, I would like to take her biography so that we'll have an understanding of who our guest speaker is. Maria Hotzel is a professor of applied ethology and animal welfare at the Federal University of Santa Catarina, Brazil. She holds a veterinary medicine degree from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, and a PhD in animal science from the University of Western Australia. Her research focuses on the impact of husbandry systems on human-animal relationships, animal behavior, and health. She also investigates farmers and public attitudes towards animal welfare, integrating these perspectives into broader issues such as animal ethics, climate change, and food security. She has supervised over 40 postgraduate and several undergraduate students in this field. She has been a member of the International Society for Applied Ethology since 2000, and currently she is the president of the society. If you want to know more about the society, feel free to reach out to me. I'm also a member of the society, and we have other members here. Dr. Samuel Duroshari is also a member here. Feel free to reach out to us. Now, the topic for today's presentation is grounded science, integrating research and outreach to improve farm animal welfare. Without wasting too much of your time, I would like to hand over to our speaker. But before I do that, I just remembered some homekeeping rules. Please, if you are not asking questions, kindly mute yourself because we don't want any disturbance. As you know, this is a recorded session. We appreciate it if you can turn on your cameras if it's convenient for you. And if you have any questions during the presentation, kindly drop them in the chat. I will take the questions after the presentation. And oftentimes after the presentation, if we do have 10 minutes time for discussion where you can turn on your mic and ask further questions during the process. So enjoy the session, grab your notes and pen and take notes. And we meet after the presentation. Thank you so much. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you for this introduction, Selun. Thank you very much, everyone that is present here and those who watch me later in the YouTube channel. I was so thrilled by this invitation. Today, I decided to choose this topic for my presentation because I want to not only show you some of the research that I've been carrying out with my group and my students, but also how we come up with this type of research that we have been doing. Sorry, I will start in explaining to you where I am, because it's important so you understand the context of my research. I'm from Brazil, and within Brazil, the state of Santa Catarina is located here in the south. And within Santa Catarina, I'm in Florianópolis, which is an island of the state. And here is a university of the Federal University of Santa Catarina. All of our work that we report here is not done in this island, but mostly in the state. Santa Catarina is about 1% of the land of Brazil. And I was checking yesterday just for a comparison. Nigeria is 10 times larger than Santa Catarina, and Brazil is 10 times larger than Nigeria. So this is the extent of the land that I'm talking about. The one important difference is that the population of Brazil and Nigeria is almost the same. So we have different setup, and more specifically about the issue that we will be talking about, which is animals. Here I'm showing you Brazil's meat production or animal production, and Brazil's production in the context of the world production. And we can see here, it's important to show you this change from the 60s to today, the important growth, especially in broiler and meat production, cattle production, but also pigs. And you can see also the importance of the size of this production for the world, not only for Brazil. And so one important characteristic of animal production in Brazil, it is its importance for the export market. So these figures that I'm saying, first in meat export, and first in broiler export, and third in pig export, over the years changes for second, third, but we are always in the top exporters. So why is this important? Because of the form that we produce the animals, and the incentive to increase production and increase also the intensification of the production systems. And milk, which is what I will be talking for my talk, is very different. We produce a lot of milk, 35 billion liters, but this production is producing over 1 million farms in Brazil. And you can imagine in very different systems within the country. And importantly, milk is not an export product. Brazil actually needs to import some milk to complete its demand for milk for the country. So why is this important? Also because of the type of production systems and the issues that happen in these different production settings. So you may have probably heard more about these other products because they are more on the news of how Brazil produces and so on. And how about milk? So pigs, poultry, and egg production are mostly done in these very intensive production systems. And we'll be talking about animal welfare. And although, because it's with an eye to export markets, Brazil is very compliant of many rules, especially health and safety. Also, regarding animal welfare, Brazil tries to adapt to international demands, but we have these very intensive systems, and we know about the problems that are inherent to these intensive systems. Dairy cattle, which is what I'll be talking about, is still mostly done in pasture systems. Now back to Santa Catarina, which is where I'm based and where I do most of my research. Santa Catarina is also within Brazil very important in terms of pig and poultry production, and also eggs. And milk production is also very important. It's the sixth ranking top producer within the country. It also changes over the years, but we have an important production for the country. But one of the things that we are observing is that although these systems, pasture systems, are still the most common, we are watching concentration of milk production. And cows are being taken to confined systems, and we have an increase in the number of cows in each farm, and also an increase in the production of milk. So this is much of what I'll be talking is about these issues of milk production and the different systems of production. So I'll tell you about my history and why I research the way I do the things we've been researching. When I arrived at the university where I work, there were many outreach programs, and I here put some keywords, and the keywords most common things that happened were around dairy, around agroecological production, and rotational pasture systems. So there were many professors, faculty in my department doing outreach programs with farms, with groups around the state and also around the south of Brazil, trying to implement rotational pasture systems to make these dairy farms that are very small farms and run by families, to be the most close to agroecological systems with low external inputs. And so rotational pasture systems are able to provide more pasture for the cows. And so this is the setting where I started being interested in this issue. In 2005, I had the opportunity to run an extension project because these are some colleagues that started this program with me, and we were 3 vets, and we were interested in, within all these programs that we were seeing about how to improve the production in the systems, we identified herd health as an issue that also needed to be worked with. And here I want to show you many results or many specifics about this extension project. Just telling you first that it was done in settlements of the agrarian reform, which is a huge program in Brazil, settling people in land. And so they start with very low capital, and they need a lot of professional and technical support. And I will show you the type of settings where we worked. And so some of these don't even exist anymore because of adaptations to higher health standards. You see manual milking, but they already worked on pasture and they needed these improvements in pasture, but our efforts were more on other health and also on trying to use not only allopathic medicaments, which is what they were being taught to use, but also lots of phytotherapeutic alternatives and so on. In this project, what we had the opportunity was to as much teach farmers as learn from them about the settings where they work and the needs they have and the way we need to communicate with these farmers and so on. One of the outputs of this program was a material that we produced called Herd Health Management for Agroecology. And what I like about this material is that we produced it from the needs of these farmers, because everybody knows about other health and the minimum practices that we need to do to keep other health and so on. But all this material is produced around the things that we saw that they do, they need, and they have, and they don't have. And this material was distributed all around Brazil, through these outreach programs in settlements of the agrarian reform. And we had the opportunity to talk to many professionals that were doing these projects, as extensionists, advisors, and that we had the opportunity to learn more from them. So jump some years, and we had an opportunity to have a research project. When I say an opportunity, what I mean is that we don't have lots of money for research in Brazil along the years, economic crisis and political crisis and so on. So each time we have a financed research project is like very important for us to do as much as we can. So we decided in this project to do a survey of the animal practices, the management practices that were being used in farms, but expanding it to the whole state of Santa Catarina. So we had a spread of municipalities and also of types of farms, because we wanted to understand in general what was going on and what these farmers were doing and what they needed. So we visited 126 farms and we inspected many aspects of these farms. We collected lots of data and we interviewed farmers to know their points of view and their needs. This involved at least, because I think it's more than that, but at least 2 master's students, 3 PhDs, and several undergraduate students. We published papers, but our specific aim, and that we could reach this, was to identify ideas and priorities for research to help solve the problems. We wanted to identify what are these problems exactly. So in one of these papers, we show that the first thing we did was to try to identify types of farms. And here we see them in images. I'll show it here as we talk. We identified that we have at least 3, but probably more, but 3 general types of farms. Some that we characterized or we termed extensive, with very low inputs, but also very low production and very low capital to invest in any changes. A second group we called pasture-based and close to agroecological systems. And they were, most of them, or many of them, related in some way to these outreach programs that I told you at the beginning. So because they started in some municipalities and then were expanding, as the faculty in our department that I was telling you had students that were hired as professionals in different places in the state, and they were spreading the news about this way of producing milk. And the third group that we identified, we termed semi-intensive. And what we mean by semi-intensive is that these cows, they were on pasture, but they spent lots of time, of their time, being fed with external inputs. And so here I show one example. So they were not intensive in the system in the terms that we use in general to say confined animals, but they were confined to some place to get food for many hours a day. And in these farms, pasture was less important and also not as well managed. Other things that we identified is that we had very similar, quite similar milk quality issues in farms, despite of these differences in systems. And we think we thought that, concluded at the time, that it's these types of farms with external inputs, they had cows that produce more, and they also had more capital, and they could invest more in automatic milking machines with better cleaning, and they needed to also have more strict prevention measures than these other systems. But at the same time, these other systems, they used fewer cows that produce less milk, and then they had fewer problems caused by the concentration of production. So these are some of the issues that we identified. We also identified many issues in calf rearing and also in health and other health issues. And we published 2 papers with these survey results, one more specific to cows and one more specific to calves. And in them, we sort of identify this is our problems that we have in these systems that deserve research. They deserve research that is, they demand research that is appropriate for this type of different types of farms. And we also need to understand the social side of why farmers do stuff they do. So this budding, separation of the calf at birth, the fate of the male calf as farms grew, they had more calves, and when they had more calves, they also had more male calves, and when they had more male calves and less land, they were seen more and more as surplus in the farms, and mostly farmers didn't know what to do with these calves. And this is an issue, was an issue, continues to be an issue. It's an international issue for dairy, but we identify that as a problem in Brazil too. Also, the quality of human-animal relationships, access to water and pasture supply, because it's very nice to have cows on pasture, but only when they have good pasture and enough pasture. And problems with lameness and mastitis, and also the dependence on antimicrobial use. I won't talk about this last issue today. I won't talk about this last issue today, but it's something that we are also working these days because it's very important. So even in that project, we had this social approach. We had an interview-based study with this undergraduate student, which is now a doctor, PhD, Clarissa. And she talked to the farmers about all these issues that we had identified, why they do the things they do, or what they knew about the things that they were doing, and what type of input they had, the technical input they had. And of course, what we concluded is that it's a multifactorial issue, that decisions made by farmers are a result of many, and also not many factors, but also factors that are interconnected among themselves. So the type of technical advice they receive, and one of the things we identify in this early research, and we keep working on this, is the role of vendors as advisors, which is kind of a problem. If we can talk about this later, but I won't go more in detail now. Access to information, who access information in the farm? We're talking about family farms. And at the time we knew, and it still happens, it's men that go to courses and that receive the technical advisor, and women that do the milking. And so what the role of this is, and also how they see animals, lots of norms and regulation that affect them. Remember, I told you that some of these systems that we saw very often in the early days now are not allowed by new norms and regulation, and they were living these changes at the time. And also many cultural values and lack of access to labor, land, or financial resources. So it's very easy to say you should do this, but I can't do this. We'll keep talking about this later. Another very nice study that we had associated to this project that I was telling you. This is Alexandre Prestes, that is the author of the paper. He was an extensionist at the time, and he came to us to do a professional master's in our program. And he did this very interesting participatory study. I don't have time to go on details, but it's published, and it first involved a community to identify what problems they thought were more important to them. And after identifying the problems that they thought were more important, then he worked with 4 farms. And again, without going into lots of detail, he used this methodology where he followed the farms during 3 months, and they studied together some indicators, especially here, specifically here, related to milk quality, other health, and prevention measures that they were using to see changes along the project, and as he did some advisory service to them. And this type of studies is so interesting because we give the farmers and learn so much from them that it's only for farms, but we learned so much to expand this to extension programs to other farms in the same region and in other regions. Also, from related or resulting from this project, we created an online material. Here's the version in Portuguese. I translated it here in Google, so it's has some problems, but we did this with some students that, again, now later came to do masters and PhDs with us. We had some information that is aimed at technical advisors that also can use it with farmers, because it has 2 types of languages, more sophisticated and technical for the technical advisors, but also ways to translate this in clearer ways for farmers if they wanted to. So initially it was about mainly issues of calf rearing and general issues of cattle behavior and welfare. I'll keep talking about this later, you'll see. In 2014, there was a program in Brazil called Science Without Borders. We had the fortunate, the luck to be awarded one of these projects. And we could collaborate with Nina Fokainseling, a researcher from the University of British Columbia. And here is my colleague of my laboratory, Luis Carlos Pinheiro Machado, that was also part of this program. Gabriela Olmos, who was a postdoc at that time, and we keep collaborating. And I point this out because these are collaborations that started because of the opportunity to have this project, and then we keep working until now in different issues of the same thing. So in this program, we had 3 main overarching branches. One was general on animal welfare in Brazil, when we published a review paper. And then we had a focus on cows and a focus on the social aspects of animal dairy production. And we concentrated, because we had to choose some things, on lameness, transition diseases, and drinking water for cows. And the social focus was more broad on lay, public, farmers, and professionals. Today, I will show you only some points, because I use them more as examples than really for the results that we obtained. So one of the issues that we chose to work was drinking water for cows that are in pasture. So in the early studies, we had observed something that actually we knew from visiting farms, but then we systematized this information, and we confirmed that less than 40% of the farms provide water ad libitum to cows. So ad libitum would be to have water when they are on pasture and when they come to the milking parlor, or if they are in the semi-intensive systems, wherever they are housed. But in fact, what happened is that many of these farms, they had water on the pasture, but natural water, which is very erratic, to say the least. So we did a few studies. First explain something very important. What is the impact of drinking water for cows? We know that drinking water influences feed intake, milk production, and animal welfare in many ways. And that there are many factors that can influence water consumption. And we concentrated our studies mostly on the 3 last, which are the availability of shade, the source and location of where this water is offered to the animals, and also some issues of social behavior. I'm going to show you today results of the last one because we don't have enough time, but we have many publications about that too. So some of these studies were done even before this project. We, for example, studied what type of water troughs cows prefer, and do they have different results? And also where to provide water in rotational systems. I will tell you about the third one because I didn't bring any slides. But what we showed is that when cows are on rotational systems, what we do is we lock them in small paddocks where they spend the whole day. And the next day they go to another new paddock. And to move between paddocks, we have corridors. And many farmers locate the water troughs in the corridors to save on water material, on hydraulic materials. And so it seems easier and cheaper to put one trough in the corridor and the cows can go and drink in the corridor. And what we showed in our studies is that when the water trough, instead of being in the corridor, is inside the paddocks where the cows are, cows drink much more water. And not only that, because of the social dominance factors among cows, all the cows can drink water when the trough is within the paddock, as opposed to few cows drink lots of water when the trough is in the corridor, and some cows are less fortunate. So from that, from learning all this from very controlled experiments, we can tell the farmers that it's much better for them to put the water in the paddock, even if it's more expensive, but in the long term, they will have benefits. And I'll show you later exactly what benefits. The first studies that I was telling you were about what troughs to choose, because also, how do I offer the water to the cows? The farmers asked us. So we compared in 2 or 3 studies, very large or smaller water troughs in preference tests, and also we in other studies compare them if they were low or high, if they were narrow or different shapes and so on. But what we learned in general is that water intake is larger and cows prefer larger troughs. So it's still, again, I mean, very relevant to choose larger troughs from the materials that the farms have available for them. And in this last project that I was telling you that we were studying specifically this issue, we could show that when water is offered ad libitum, meaning within paddocks and also in the milking parlor or wherever the cows are stationed, what milking production increases to up to 10%. So we can now tell farmers that it's worth putting water in the paddocks. Not only general knowledge, we know that milk production is associated with drinking water, but studying farms in your region, we could show you that milk cows can produce up to 10% more milk. And then the other issue that we focused, that I will expand a little bit now, is on lameness. The objectives of this part of the project was to describe the prevalence of lameness in grazing herds in our region, because lameness is known to be a problem in confined systems. There was at the time already lots of knowledge, but very little knowledge on the prevalence and also associated factors to lameness when the herds are run in grazing systems. But also we wanted to know if the producers could identify lameness in their herds and what knowledge and attitudes they had about lameness and all the issues surrounding this condition. And so in this project, we visited 50 farms for 4 times. So in the first visit, we had a huge survey of all management practices, inspection of the environment and of the animals, and gait scoring of all the cows to see how they were walking to estimate lameness. And we also had a questionnaire with lots of questions about the farm, about the practices, and about many issues that were important to identify these risk factors that we were interested. In the second visit, we again did the same inspection. It was in another season because we expected seasonal differences. And also we interviewed the farms. Because the first time we only went and visited, didn't tell much about lameness, but in the second one, then we started talking about lameness with the farmers and interview them about how they saw the issue and what they knew about the issue. The third visit was a benchmarking project. I'll show you later. And then again, we visited the farms after doing the benchmarking part of the project. So the first one, identifying lameness. So we used a gait scoring that I won't go into detail, but we classified the cows into healthy with some lameness, which we term clinical, or with severe lameness, according to how they walked in a path. So how we did this, we scored the gait or the way they walk at the exits of the milking parlor. We had very different farms with very different settings. So one of the criteria for one farm being able to participate in our study was to have a place where we could do this scoring. That could be in the milking parlor, but could be also sometimes outside, but we had to have a minimum steady place to be able to assess it. Here is one of our students. Someone asked me if I had a video. I forgot I do have one. I hope you can see it. I think it's okay. It's running. So this is one example of the cows leaving the milking and the student scoring the walk of the cows. And we had only one student doing all this same assessment, and he was trained and retrained during the study. So the cows were also inspected for body condition score, for cleanliness, for health of their limbs and hooves. And here we have some examples of from our assessment, and you can see some problems. We also assess the breed of the cows. Each cow, what breed or cross they could be. And also many aspects of the environment, for example, many aspects of the feeding areas where the cows spend a lot of time eating, how it's the setting, the space for cows, how the feed was offered, so on. And also a very important interest in the paths. You can see one photo here, but we had very different combinations of mud, stones, slope, and distance from the milking parlor to the paddocks where the cows would end up for grazing the whole day. So here you have another example. And here you have other examples. Sorry, I'll give you a second to see. These were very typical, and this is on a dry day. This is on a non-dry day, and this is the daily life of a cow and the farmers in these farms. We also assessed many aspects of the milking parlor and the entry of exit of the milking parlor. They have they have a space, they have stairs and so on, and also the waiting areas. Are they dry, mud? Is it grass? Something for them to eat? Place, a proper place for them to lay down or not, and so on. So for each of these factors that we analyzed, we had to first go to the farms and then make a chart with different possibilities, because mud, what is mud? So we had to create a criteria for mud, a criteria for slope, a criteria for any of these factors that we wanted to assess, but we didn't come up with them with a ready chart. We had to make up any of these indicators after visiting some farms. We also inspected the management. One specific issue that I want to show is the chasing speed to and from the milking parlor. Again, it was very difficult to set up how we would assess this, but after visiting some farms, we came up with a system that we could calculate the speed that the farmer used to chase the cows from the pasture to the milking parlor and back. So we ended up with 44 farms where we had complete data. And just to give you an overview, they had about 21 hectares, 36, 37 cows that produced about 18, 19 liters or kilograms of milk per day. And this one was an important criteria to be included in our study, that they had at least 16 hours a day access to pasture. So most of these farms were what we classified in the first study as semi-intensive. They were on pasture, but they were also being fed, supplemented with silage and with concentrate. And here you can see that there's quite some variation among farms and how they manage their cows in our study, and also in the breeds. 60% were Holsteins, 10% were Jersey, 20% were crosses between Holstein and Jersey. And this is really represents our state in terms of breed, and 10% with others, including crosses with Zebu, which is not very common in the south of Brazil, very common in other regions of Brazil, but not in the south of Brazil. So here are the results of lameness. Clinical lameness was this moderate state of lameness. Here you see the prevalence from 0 to 100% of the cows in each of the farms that we visited. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, is just a number of the farm. And you can see that it varies from 10% of the cows in a farm being lame to 66%. So on average, 31% of the cows presented clinical lameness. And in this graph, you see the percentage of cows that had severe lameness. And this is very easy to see that the cow is lame. And you can see that some farms had only clinical moderate lameness, but some not only had many cows with clinical lameness, but a portion of them had severe lameness too. Oops, sorry. So we were interested in knowing what are the factors that are associated to lameness, so then we could, from there, tell something to the farmers. So as expected, Holstein cows are the cows that were more lame, more than crosses, and more than Jersey cows. And also we found an important effect of age or parity. So older cows had much higher likelihood of being lame than the younger cows. Cows with hoof abnormality had a much higher probability of being lame. And also cows that had lower body condition were also prone to being lame. So regarding the breed effect, many reasons explain the breed effect. We know that Holstein cows are less protected from lameness than Jersey cows. But more importantly, we had first many herds that were heterogeneous. So they had different breeds of cows in the same herds. And so they had the same management for all the cows, regardless if they what breed they were or the milk production they had. So same feeding, same housing, same facilities for very different cows. And the second thing was the age effect. And we know for a fact, for talking with many farmers and advisors, but we identified the same in our project, that the cows that produce more tend to stay longer in the herd, even if they are sick. So this compounds to a very important animal welfare problem, because the cow produces more, she has more higher tendency to be lame, but she will be kept in the herd even with lameness because she produces more. And then we had and also another form of assessing associated factors, which was related to the herd. And we found that Holstein herds had more chances to have lame cows than Jersey or crosses, but also this very interesting point of the chasing speed. So what this means is farmers that chase their cows faster tended to have more lame cows in their herds. So in the second part of this study, or which was the same study, but we analyzed it separately, we were interested in the farmers' knowledge and attitudes. And so one of the main points was asking the farmers, how many lame cows are in your herd? According to you. So remember I said when we first visited, we didn't talk much about lameness. We talked about general issues. And so we asked them, how many lame cows do you think you have? The second time we visited, they had already heard about lameness from us. And you will see that it didn't change so much. But this is the answer that they gave us. In green is what I had already shown you, clinical lameness according to the veterinarian. And this is according to the farmers. So on average, the farmers identified 1 in every 5 lame cows. This is what it says. And it was, in some herds, they were very good at identifying lameness in their herds, but in many others, they had lots of lame cows and they thought they didn't have any lame cows at all. I'm going to go back to this, but this quote from a farmer says a lot. That he was saying, when she's very lame, I think everybody knows how to identify a lame cow. When it's little, which is what we call clinical lameness, it's not easy. When a cow has clinical lameness, she's on the path of becoming severe lameness, right? If we don't take measures to prevent its ongoing process. So they recognized that they couldn't identify lame cows. And then we also asked them what they thought could cause lameness in the herd. This question was done in the later parts of the project when we had already talked about lameness with them and showed them that they had lame cows. And then we asked them, what do you think causes lameness in your herds? Remember, I just told you what we identified as the main causes of lameness in their herds. And it doesn't have much to do with what they suggested could cause lameness in the herds. It's important because this is what they will probably, if they think of changing something, they will act on these issues. So first of all, they thought it was about uneven floors and stones. And I think it's very obvious because you saw the pictures and they see that also. So they think, oh, it's because our path has so many stones or it's muddy or so on. And the problem was that they see this as a part of their farm that they can't change much. So I have lame cows, this is the problem, but nothing I can do. And we saw this happening, these type of answers. They also identified lameness with ruminal acidosis, and this was not a problem that we identified in their herds, or excess grains, and so they will think about changing the diet, which is something they will find in books, in talks, but it's not what explain lameness in their farm. But hoof infections or hoof defects, which is more important and which was a problem, they didn't see as a problem, or low body condition score, or old age of the cows. So here we identified that not only they didn't see lameness in their cows, but they also didn't understand the potential problems causing lameness in their cows. And we were interested in the breed effect because Jersey cows are very, very recommendable for their region for many reasons, especially lameness, as we showed you, but they have a very marked preference for Holstein cows. This is explained by extension and this push for concentration of production and high production, but then they have internalized too. So some farmer, for example, here saying, for our area, which is flat, it is better to have Holstein cows. So they have this, they have heard probably that because the whole state of Santa Catarina is quite hilly. This is one of the reasons why Jersey cows would be more suitable. But here is flat, so she's more productive, she's more viable for us, and I'll keep having Holstein cows. And this other has a very different view about this because they produce more, but in addition to this, they have better value when they have to cool them. And so reasons to keep having cows that maybe are not the more appropriate for them. And about the chasing speed, they also recognize it, but also explain it as a normal fact. So cows don't come fast, they come slowly. We have to push them, to tell the truth, so they can walk a little further. So we are always in a hurry, we don't have a lot of labor available, so we have to do it fast. And they like to walk very slowly. So we were interested in this aspect because it says so much about human-cow relationship, and which we know is very important for other consequences, potential consequences. So this is from the study of that came later from this student Gabriela Marchetti, and among other things, she identified the issue of negative attitudes of farmers towards their lame cows. It's the same farmers, and talking about the cows at the very end of the project, and she identified in 37 farmers the use of terms like lazy, sluggish, slow, and other terms that were not positive about the cows. So if we understand the relationship that there is between the attitudes of a farmer or a person about an animal, in this case a cow, and how this shapes the behavior that the person may have towards this cow. So I put here an example. If this farmer thinks this is a sluggish or lazy cow, more likely that she will use this type of behavior. And this leads to fear, leads to stress, leads maybe to the cow walking faster than she should, and she can't choose where to step her already hurt feet and so on. And so this adds instead of trying to go to the other way. And we know this may affect milking and other aspects of the daily management of the cow. So here we identified a place where we could work to talk about the cows with the farmers and explain these relationships and try to undo these relationships. So Gabriela identified in her interviews that were done at the very end of her study that there's a predominant culture that lameness is not a problem. When lameness is not a problem, you don't have prevention measures, and also they didn't value any advice on implementing prevention measures for something that they don't see as a problem. This is the end of the project after our interventions, so we need more continuous intervention and a wider conversation, and not only us talking about this, because farmers pay attention to what we say or what the advisor that is talking to them say, but also what is being talked about, this cultural component that I was saying. Hoof trimming, which we identified as one of the sort of easy ways to change the situation, was considered not important for cows and pasture. So the neighbor that has a free stall, he does it, but only because he needs it. We are very fortunate that we don't need to have this cost in pasture systems. So how to change this culture is a challenge for us. So here, just wrapping up, this is a review that one of our students at the time did, showing several studies showing the prevalence of lameness in different, each of the studies is many farms in each of these studies. So on average, 31% of these studies, the cows would have lameness. And it's about what we found, 35%, 31, sorry, percent of the cows in our study had a lameness. But the thing is that if you pay attention to what studies we're talking about, most of these studies here on the right are on confined systems, and these studies that will have lower lameness are on pasture-based systems. But our study was done on pasture system and had very high clinical lameness, so huge challenge for us to undo some of the attitudes, this lack of knowledge about lameness being a problem only for confined systems, and from then trying to implement prevention and correction programs. So lameness is not a problem in pasture management, pasture managed dairy herds, according to the farmers, but it is a problem. And not only producers, but also consultants that participated in this study also had this conviction. And now I know it's changing, but at the time they were all oblivious to this problem of lameness in their farms. So we published several that I just commented very quickly. And at the end of the program, the project, we had this benchmarking activity. We created this material, which was information material and also material that we created for each of the farmers. So each farm received the results of their farm and of the whole 44 farms that were participating, but each one only knew about their identity. So it was very confidential from the 44 participants. And then we discussed it with them, the results of their farms and the contradiction between what they thought and what not, and so on. And then they received informational material, and also this material was not just material, was produced from the collective results of all the 44 farms, and we discussed and showed this material what it meant. So I'll show you here, it's very small, but I'll walk you very quickly through this. So it was the evaluation for each farm, and we had the first visit and the second visit, and we had two forms of showing. This was very graphical, easy for a farmer that didn't have familiarity with a bar chart. But also here, the bar chart that we explained to them, also the first and the second visit. So in gray, the clinical lameness, and in darker, the severe lameness for the 44 farms in the first visit, the 44 farms in the second visit, and highlighting here the farm of this farmer that we were talking to. And here, the top part explained closer to you. We show them all the cows on the first visit. On gray, the cows with moderate lameness. On black, the cows with severe lameness. And here, how many cows you said to us during the interview that were lame. So here, from 10 cows, the farmer only had identified 3. And in the second visit, first he had 10 cows, and now he has 17 cows lame. So you can see that his problem is greater now. And he identified 5 of the 17 cows. So we had lots of things to discuss with this farmer, because we could show him or her, whatever it was, how it evolved during the project, how their understanding did or did not evolve, and again, how they were located in terms of the other farms in the region, which they were in certain ways very comparable. So we could discuss, why do you think you have such and such and the others have such, and then we could bring all these associated factors and what they do better or not, and what they could do to, if somebody is here, we could tell them, you that are here, maybe you could come here too. It's a real farm. It's not like in the books. So it was very, very rich what we could discuss with them. So, so we discussed things like your evaluation is different from the veterinarian and why. And so we could discuss issues of identifying the lame cows. Your farm is better or worse than others, why and why not, and what could be changed and what cannot be changed, and what are the difficulties and how can we overcome these difficulties. And then I said I would go back to this online material. We added the lameness part into the material. And again, we had some theoretical material, but also a lot of this material was produced based on what we learned from these farms, which is our reality and not the reality of maybe other regions or the general reality. So one of the aspects of this material is that we have some material to download, and one, for example, specific for lameness, sorry. And so this is a booklet, and this booklet can be downloaded and has been downloaded many times, and it shows, as I said, theoretical aspects on lameness, but also examples of exactly what happens with lame cows and with information and images from this reality, which makes it more appealing to these farmers. So coming to an end, because we're coming to an end in time as well, what are we doing today related to this area of research? We are very interested, concerned about intensification of milk production in the state of Santa Catarina. From 96 to 19, these years are the years that we have national census. This is why we have data. We have tripled the production of milk in the state, which is a lot. But this increase has happened by increasing cows' productivity a lot, which is so different breeds, the different genetics in the same breeds, but also different feeding systems in these cows. And also we have been observing a decreasing number of cows and farms, which explains this concentration of production in more intensive systems. So the project started with a funding from this entity, Tiny Bean Fund, and we produced this material, which is more it's aimed at people that are interested in this issue of intensification and what could be thought and discussed to reduce at least this intensification. This material is open, and it's very interesting to check. I think it is very specific to our region. At the same time, it has very issues that are common to many regions where this process of intensification is happening. And now I have 3 students that are very interested in the social side of the causes and the consequences of this intensification, and what happens to the cows and to the people when these changes happen. So Leticia is interested in farmers' attitudes about animal welfare related to different production systems. Matthias is interested in how human-animal relations develop in regenerating agriculture. And Elisa is very interested in intersections between gender and animal welfare. That is an issue that we have been identifying along the years in our projects, and now she's interested in pursuing specifically. And I recommend that you follow her. So I will leave you with the words of Paulo Freire. He's a very famous educator in Brazil. And I think it defines at least what we want to do in our projects. He says, in the learning process, only those who take ownership of what they have learned transform it into understanding, reinvent it, and apply what they have learned and understood to real life situations. So this refers to the farmers, that how to transfer what we understand as scientific understanding of the issues to their reality, but it also refers to us as scientists, what reality we want to understand and transform and make into real life situations. So I leave you for questioning time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria, for this wonderful presentation. I have loads of questions, but I would want to give preference to those who are in the who are joining, to also ask questions. Please, if you don't
Do you
mind.
want me, do you want me to unshare
Yes,
so
please.
we have,
Yes, please. I wanted
okay.
to say that. Thanks everyone for your time and for participating. I really appreciate it. I can see there are lots of questions in the chat here. Feel free to on your video if you're comfortable doing that. And let me just go into the chat now to see what I have here as well. So, um, I realized that this your research was actually a regional research where you looked into the issues that we were having in Brazil, and you were able to focus into this regional problem to see how you can improve the welfare of the animals in Brazil, which is something that is very, very important because we need to solve our different problems, which is specific to the region or the country that we live in. But how were you? One thing I also realized was that because of the language, I believe you speak is it Portuguese now? Is it Portuguese?
Yes, Brazil speak
Yes.
Portuguese.
So it may be easy for you to communicate the research output to the farmers in their local language. I want you to really talk about this issue of communication of regional research to the local farmers who actually need to make this change, especially when it comes to animal welfare.
Okay, thank you. This question comes from you or from someone in the audience?
This is from me before I go to the
Okay.
chat. Yes, from me.
Okay, yeah. In Brazil, everybody speaks Portuguese. It's the only official language, and of course, we have lots of local communities that speak other languages. But these types of farmers in the south of Brazil, they all speak Portuguese. So we don't have this problem. But we do have the one problem is that we have farmers, right? So communicating with the farmers is very naturally done in Portuguese. But the second problem is that that of the advisors that talk to the farmers. And we know that much of the research is done and published in English. And so sometimes bringing this knowledge in Portuguese to this public that will transfer it to the farmers is a challenge for us. I think it's becoming easier, now because it's become easier for anyone to read things in English in the language they want. And in Brazil, people are very safe in terms of this type of technologies, and I see it happening. But still, it's not only the translation to the language, but also translating the scientific language to a technical language, to a farmer's language. I think this is a challenge. This is why I wanted to highlight all this material that we prepare for farmers and for advisors. One of the big challenges is to use a language that reaches the farmer. So it's still Portuguese,
Yeah.
but it's they're not scientific enough so that it makes sense to us. We wanted to bring a change, but that it's in the language and in the understanding and in the reality of these farmers.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So there is a question here from Dr. Samuel Durosharo concerning the experiment on lameness in cow. What were the criteria you considered in selecting the 50 farms?
Very good question. It was like what we call a convenience sample. So we didn't have any special interest in any specific farm, but we did need, because of the statistical analysis that we wanted to do, because for the prevalence, we could have any farms, but because we also wanted to identify associated factors, we knew that we needed something like about 10% of farms with some situation so that we could bring it to the analysis. And before the study, we expected some factors to be associated with lameness. So breeds, condition score, age, and others that came up and others that didn't come up. So we needed a spread of farms, and at the same time, we needed number. So we have our herd size. I think it's larger now, but it was about 30 cows per farm in Santa Catarina, and we needed larger farms than that. So this was one criteria. We needed farms that were about 50 cows and that they spent time on pasture because it was lameness on pasture. So if your herd has 45, 50 cows more and spends more than 16 hours a day on pasture, it's in. So we invited some. We know because of our outreach programs, some farmers and also some extensionists. And then we asked them, can you recommend someone? And from there, like a snowball system that one recommends the other. So we had to visit more than 50 farms to reach the 50. And as you saw, we ended up with 44 because some then we couldn't use for some reason or another. And we rely a lot on farmers' goodwill, that they open their farms to us and then they had to receive us doing milking, which is quite annoying. And so we had to be very nice and receive us twice at least because we wanted 2 seasons. So that was it. It's relatively easy considering that, as I said, we go and they do it for nothing. We have to convince them it's good for all of us to have this knowledge. Can you please open your doors and let someone mess with your day for today?
Thank you. There are lots of questions, so we need to be fast about it so we don't exceed.
Okay.
There is a question here from Abubakar Yusuf, and is asking about, because there was a result you presented about ad libitum provision of water actually increased milk production by 10%. He was wondering, how did you arrive at 10%?
Okay. So we had all these 50 farms. For this, I think we have more than 50 farms from the same project. And then we had lots of information about the breed, the age, the lactation number of the cows, lactation stage of the cows, number of cows, production of the cows, not individual cow, but production of the herd. And we had 2 visits. And from that, you add all this to Juan's magnificent capacity of doing statistical analysis. So he considered all these factors, the herds that had water and libitum still produced more milk than the others. So he could on the statistical analysis take into account all the factors. And if you're really interested in details, in the paper, there's a supplementary material that shows exactly the details of the statistics, but not on statistical jabberish, but he explains how he used it. One is very good at that.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question from Dr. Samuel. How responsive were the farmers during your visits and the interview you had with them?
Brazilian farmers, I don't know, but Brazilian farmers in the south of Brazil, in general, they like receiving researchers, at least the ones that accept. But I can't remember exactly in this study because we always report how many accepted and how many didn't. Most of them accept. And they receive you with coffee and biscuits, or if they have less time, not so nicely, but in general, good reception. Even when you saw the results, right? We told them you have lame cows, and they said, no, we don't have lame cows. We have these problems. No, we think we have the opposite. So it was in some way it could be confrontational, but it was not. It was really like an exchange of ideas of why we see things differently. Remember that I mentioned the issue of the role of vendors in as being advisors, and we have this a lot of farmers receiving lots of people that come to visit them for the most varied reasons, and some for to sell them stuff and show them stuff and so on. So some farmers are a bit sick of that. They don't want to receive one more visit. And so we have to first convince them, no, we're not selling you anything. We're just trying to exchange ideas and so on. Often this starts with a relationship of good confidence between an advisor and the farmers, and us. We come after that, right? Someone that recommends this farmer, you should receive this thing because we know them and we have ties. So in general, it's very good.
Okay. Actually, there are lots of questions here, but pardon me, in case I miss any of them, I want you all to know that you can still reach out to our speaker. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. It's the same name, Maria José Hotze. So you can still reach out to her on LinkedIn and, ask her further questions if you want to connect with her. I know because of time, we may not be able to take every question here, but I'll try my best to take it randomly so it will not be just one particular person. There's a question here from Odeyemi Adebisi. Could it be that some farmers didn't know the signs of lameness based on the response too slow that you mentioned in the presentation? When you looked at the data you presented in terms of the veterinarians scoring lameness and also the farmers, there is like a times five. The vets were 30 something while the farmers were like 6 point something. So why do we have this discrepancy? Were the farmers trained before or they didn't know anything about it? What can you
No,
say?
they didn't know anything. First of all, they didn't know anything. And so there's this idea, general idea that lameness is a problem for confined systems. So we are not checking for this problem. And then if you know something about lameness, you know that severe lameness, my former student João, now he's a professor in the United States, he says, a severe lame cow is one that even my grandma can identify. And so that's easy. But the problem is the clinical, the moderate lame cows. And you need a trained eye. And farmers, they do have a trained eye for the things that they are trained. So the first thing is to call their attention that the way a cow walks can show you. So does she move the head? Is she arched? Does she this and that? And so they can learn. And there's some studies showing that farmers, after you show them and teach them, they can see their lame cows and they open an eye and pay attention. So yeah, that's a reason. It's not very obvious, and they are used to it. Cows walk like this, and if you add that their terrain is very uneasy, they may think, "Wow, she's limping because of the terrain, not because of the cow."
Sorry, there is a call that is disturbing me. But if I'm back, if you can really hear me, uh,
Yes.
there is a follow-up question about how did the data you got from these 50 farms, can you say it's a typical representative of what happens in Brazil? I'm trying to bring back my slide though, but if you,
No, definitely not.
I don't know.
Not representative of Brazil. Uh, it's representative of the south of Brazil, I would say yes, because we showed that it's more common in Holstein cows than in Jersey cows or crosses. And so if you have a region where you have more Jerseys, you would expect to have less um, lameness, and so you can extrapolate the information. But then we go to São Paulo, you go to the north of Brazil, herds are totally different and they need to have their own studies for sure. But I think general learnings like, yes, there are lame cows and farmers are not seeing. I would bet that anyone that does a similar study will find the same. The age effects for sure, and the hoof treatment effect too. That people should pay attention to the state of hoofs of their cows. And there's some studies in Brazil showing more specific studies about hoof health than lameness that tell me that yes, in general, it's you could extrapolate that. And also because, I don't know who asked the question, but because this represents also what happens in the rest of the world. So this is why I would say more or less represents what happens in farms in Brazil.
Okay. So I'll take one more question and then we'll open up the floor in case anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask. So there are lots of people here that have actually appreciated you for this presentation, and it has already cleared a lot of doubts or questions that they already have about dairy animals. So let me take a final one, which has got to do with the legislative. What does animal welfare legislative and enforcement looks like in Brazil?
We have very general legislation about animal welfare in Brazil, but there's no enforcement, like nothing like you'd see in the European Union, say. We have legislation in construction. For example, for pigs, we have a very detailed normative about what can and cannot be done in farms in many aspects of animal welfare. Many of the things will come into effect over the years. So I think it would be the most legislated species so far, but these changes are coming very fast. And we have very specific things, like for example, for horse sports and activities, more and more we have norms, and then they do have enforcement. For farm animals, less. And we have lots of things that are done and enforced via the export markets in these other species that I was telling you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I will end taking questions from the chat. Dr. Duru, do you have anything to say to our speaker today?
But and also, so because this will be for others to see later, I forgot to tell about legislation. We do have a very strict and old, I mean, for many years, legislation about slaughter, human slaughter of animals, and coming with legislation for transport as well. So couldn't forget that.
Thank you so
Now that
much. Dr. Duru, do you have anything to share?
Thank you very much, Maria. That was a
nice
nice
you.
presentation. I'm sorry for disturbing you during the interview session. I don't know, my laptop misbehaves sometimes.
No,
So
I wasn't disturbed.
I have a question. I don't know. I was reading sometimes ago that the type of grasses and legumes that this cow feed on can also cause lameness. I read that sometimes ago. Do you have an idea of what these cows are feeding on the pasture, the type of grass and the legumes?
Oh, you mean if the feed on pasture would have effect on?
Yes, yes.
No, wrong person to ask. I don't know the answer.
Okay, I will look for the paper
Sorry.
and share with you. I think I've read
Okay.
something like that,
Okay.
but it was a long
But
time ago.
yeah, I
Okay.
don't know about it. But I bet that if we have lower interest in lameness in cows on pasture, there will be fewer studies about that. And so
Okay.
it's something to think about. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much for that. You know, the aspect of extension and outreach in animal welfare is an important aspect that I like because what you know about animal welfare, you go to the farmer and you tell them, and that helps a lot. Thank you for
Yes.
that wonderful job and the presentation, Dr.
Thank
Yase.
you.
yeah, thank you so much. So let's just take one or two more from the audience. If you would really want to unmute yourself and say something to the speaker, maybe ask a question or anything. One or two, please. Just use the raise of hand button, and I will allow you to unmute yourself. Anybody who wants to share something or ask further questions or just to say hello? Anybody?
Everybody's shy.
Okay, we have Dr. Wetzel
Nothing.
here.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Yasiri. I just want to appreciate the presenter,
You're welcome.
Maria, for that wonderful presentation and for opening our eyes to see how to do it better. So thank you so much for that presentation. Back
Thank
to
you.
you, Dr. Yasiri. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Okay, this is a question coming from TikTok because I'm actually streaming on TikTok, and there is a question here.
Oh,
And it says, how accommodating are the farmers to foreign researchers?
I don't understand the question. How to accommodate what?
As in Brazilian farmer, how accommodating are the farmers if there is a foreigner, doing a research in their midst? How do they,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I think it's the same question somebody asked earlier, and it's for me surprising. I'm not surprised anymore, but is surprisingly positive how they open. More recently, and not related directly to this that I was talking today in our study about use of antibiotics in pig and in dairy farms, we had a very unusual approach. First, we contacted some farmers through these channels that I told you, people that you knew or farmers that you knew. And then on the road, the students would say, oh, there's a farm there. Let's go and see if they want to talk to us. And it was amazing, the response. Interesting, in the dairy farms, they let you go in and talk to them. In the pig farms, probably because of health sanitary issues, they were more received on the gate, but spent 2 hours on an interview about what they did or not in the farm just by being invited on the farm. So surprisingly positive results. Many of them expect us to come back with results. So when we do this as a group of farmers, it's very nice to go back and tell them the results and the collective results of the studies. So this last study that I told you, that we could go back to the farms and talk to them. This is the results of what we came initially asked you to help us to do. I think is the most gratifying, and I hope they talk about this among themselves. But so far, easy and gratifying, the contact with farmers.
Okay, thank you so much. With this, we come to the end of the 17th virtual inaugural lecture of the Animal Welfare Group Nigeria. Please feel free to follow us on our different social media platforms. We are on LinkedIn, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are also on X at AWGN14. And if you want to come on camera, so let's take a quick screenshot or photograph. Please turn on your camera and let me quickly grab that beautiful picture of you. And like I said, feel free to watch our videos on our YouTube channel. There's a whole lot we have done over the years. I can see these wonderful faces. If you want to be part of the International Society for Applied Ethology, kindly follow Maria Hotzel on LinkedIn. Also, Dr. Duro Sharo can give you amazing information about ISAE. You can as well ask me or ask Dr. Bukola, Professor Bukola. They will tell you everything. We have a lot of ISAE members here. And also, I also just, because I'm actually doing this in the office and I told them I have to do this in the office. So let me also publicize what we do. We have free teaching modules talking about animal welfare, about 15 of them. So it is on the website teaching-animal-welfare.org. It is the WTS Welfare Schutz Stiftung Vets United page. There are free resources that you can use. Download them in PDF or PowerPoint. It's ready-made resources that you can use. Just adopt it in your teaching and you can learn from it as well. So I would love to see. And if you didn't get that, just reach out to me. Of course, you know me on LinkedIn. I will send you the link. Thank you, everybody. Please, I'm here to grab the camera. I'm going to get the picture. Please turn on your camera, please. Turn on the camera, please. And let's grab this amazing picture. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria, for honoring this invitation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You really, really, shared a lot of insight with us, and it makes sense, especially when we see how our research can be adopted by the farmers and also to improve farm animal welfare. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Enjoy your day
Thank you.
wherever
Bye.
you are. Bye.